What's happening, everyone? Good morning. It's been a blazing morning today for me. So fun, as every day pretty much. Just coming at you to try to bring some good content. Some of these interviews, I spend more time on than others. This one I've been prepping for a while. And just I really wanted to lay out some of the ways of thinking that I think I've came across, and our two guests have came across too, that have just been very healthy, productive, actionable ways to figure out your mindset around wealth, around health, wealth, happiness. That's the journey I've been on for a while. That's kind of a lifelong journey in that way. But once you finally get on it, you just keep soaking in information, and then more importantly, turning that information into something you can use in everyday life, and to help you, get to your goals, improve your systems, however you are trying to figure out your success or your story or your place in this world. So I want to put this together and just come across a lot of the highlights and deep dive in some different areas I think have been meaningful to me, questions I've been thinking about, and just topics that I think aren't widely discussed. Every time our community has an interview around the wisdom journey and stuff like that, I really get into it. I really like it. I enjoy it. I always find some value into it. I like listening to it when I'm driving and just kind of soaking in a little bit of time, having stuff to chew on. So that's what I hope this is. If you're tuning in live, please retweet the link I've shared out, or tweet it yourself, tweet the stream, tag me and Maxim and Jake and all of us. And we'll be taking questions from time to time. We're going to ton of topics to dive into. So we're just going to blaze through each one, maybe spend some more time on some versus others. But if you have questions, if you have follow-ups, if you have things like that, I'll stop every once in a while and we'll answer questions too. But this is going to be good for the replay gang. It's going to be also good for live, just to see your thought process through all of these things too. So without further ado, should have had more Americana, shouldn't I? Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Maxim and Jake.
What's up?
I'm gonna start when I go through the questions too. I'm gonna call on you one at a time to start, because I always have this confusing, like who can go first, who needs to go first. So I'm gonna clarify that. Don't worry. So whoever's ready to jump into the hello question though, feel free. Jake, hit it first. Maxim, hello, sir.
Hey.
Welcome to the pod. I want to say. When I listen to All In podcasts, they always say that. So I'm like, welcome to the pod. Yeah. I mean, I guess it can be a podcast, I guess. If you're listening to it without video, I guess it's sort of a podcast too. I always think of audio only podcast, but yeah, man. What do you think? I'll start with this one. Let's switch it up a little bit. Maxim, why do you think I brought you on here?
I hope it's because you felt I might have some value to share.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the streams that I've seen that you went through, I'm getting all the jitters out early right now. A lot of the content I've watched from you, you seem to be a deep thinker. You seem to have tackled a lot of these problems that we're all looking at in life in one way or another. And that's one of the reasons you have value to share. And that's, that's something that I wanted this stream to be, something where people can really learn from. I mean, everyone says, oh, we're going to have a stream. I learned a lot. I did these things, but I really want you to be able to people to be able to soak in this information, and us, I think we're plenty capable of putting out there. And Jake, just you too, like why do you think, what have you done so far that you would feel like you have a lot to share out there too?
So after kind of just being semi-retired for a year and doing nothing, I started a personal brand, and I feel like I speak to a part of the community that, I don't know, I seem to be very ambitious and driven, as you guys probably noticed by my Twitter profile. And I feel like that speaks to a certain type of individual. And I guess without sounding arrogant, I've achieved a lot at a young age. And I thought the idea of this stream was to talk about the wealth mindset. And I used to do a lot of identity work. I kind of had my own process called evolution of self, because I definitely did not grow up with money. When I earned more money than my parents, I went through a massive guilt trip. So a lot of the identity work I've done, I feel like, would be massively valuable to everybody kind of watching the stream.
Exactly. I've consumed a lot of both of your content, and I just feel like, wow, I've learned stuff myself, and I've been able to put pieces together that I think a lot of people are trying to put together as well. And that's why I wanted to take these topics. And you guys have seen, I did the prep. I came up with a lot of topics and stuff to go over. these are important things in people's lives that, you know, it took me, and again, just talking about my own credentials here. I mean, I would consider myself an amateur philosopher in one way or another, just having lived through so much so far and been able to try in so many different areas. I don't, you know, I said before, I don't consider, there's no failure, only feedback, that sort of thing. So I don't even say success and failure. I say, like, I tried and I got feedback, and maybe I tried again, or I went a different way. So that's what I feel like I'm able to come up with. And after consuming both of your content, I felt like we had a diverse group too, because we're all in our own different ways able to think about things in a way that just means something. I mean, you could sit all day long and just, you know, they call it mental masturbation of just like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's a gem. Oh, I'm going to take this and use this. Those people, they can read 20 books a year and they do absolutely nothing from it, or they get, you know, that much out of it when they should be getting that much. So that's why I want to put this together for that, because I think we got some good stuff to share. I want to get the credentials out there right at the start, so people are like, oh, why should we listen to you, broke plebs? Well, I don't think we're all that broke if you put our stuff together. Not that we're going to put it out there, but first of all, I don't think we're all broke, and second of all, I think that we've had a lot of life experiences that have that we're able to share and help people try to think about things that they haven't found quite, you know. And we'll get into meeting and stuff too, and all that things. But I think, just putting this together and providing value. That's why we're here. So now we got through that. I want to go through daily routines. We'll start now that I shook you a little bit. Now we're gonna like roll back down just a little bit. Daily routines. Jake, what is the first thing you do in the morning? Take us through a typical day. And Jake.
Now it's actually hella different. Back in the day, I used to have an extremely strict morning routine where I would wake up, I would do 100 jumping jacks, kind of get the blood going, some breath work stuff, some Wim Hof stuff, then take like my nootropics. That's when back when I know that I'm not that big of a fan anymore of morning routines. I guess at some point in life, you just kind of wake up, do the work. But in the beginning, you kind of do have to wake yourself up, get yourself in state. But after a while, your character just kind of takes over. Because in the beginning, I had extremely bad habits. I used to drink a lot, had a massively bad diet. I think morning routines are massively important in the beginning to build the habits. But then once you kind of have the habits, you just wake up, get done what you have to get done, and then go on with life. So I'm in a period of life where I don't have a morning routine. Just wake up, go. But back in the day, it was definitely not the case. Yeah.
How do you think you got there? Though, were you able to just compound so much that you just made everything so frictionless? Where you're like, okay, I can just do that now. I don't need to do the grind as much as I used to in the more, you know, routine oriented way.
Yeah, I think the big realization was identity work, where like when you hear guys like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all of these like massive dudes, whenever they get interviewed after a game, whenever they get asked, okay, how do you go to practice every day? How do you work so hard every day? And the answer they almost always come up with is like, it's just who I am. It's my identity. I cannot do it any other way. And then the question I had for myself, because I definitely did not have the best upbringing, so I kind of had to pave my own path as a man. And the thing that inspired me, I remember I was learning history class in school back when I was like 14, 15. I remember hearing about the Spartans and how the actual boys got removed from their mothers at the age of like, I think it was 8 or 12, to then go to battle with the men to kind of forge them into becoming men instead of boys. And I felt like I never had that in my life. So I kind of did that for myself. I started fighting. I was a competition fighter for 4 years, MMA. And I don't know, I just felt like I had to, like, not to sound morbid, to basically kill myself over and over and over again, kind of Jake 1.0, Jake 2.0, Jake 3.0. And at some point, you just kind of level up your identity where you're like, you just work hard because it's all you know. Like, not working hard makes you extremely uncomfortable. Not winning makes you extremely uncomfortable. And I think you only get there after a certain point. Did I answer the question? I feel like I just went on a little rant.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's well, and I'll pivot in Maxim too. Like, what do you think? Have you just building on Jake's kind of ending there too? Has your routine changed? Like, what is your routine first of all, and has it changed once you felt like you did Maxim 2.0, 3.0? If you even went in that same direction?
Yeah, I resonate a lot with what Jake just said. I like what you ended with, a little bit of killing yourself. Even though that's like you said, a relatively extreme way to put it, I do kind of feel in my mind, it is kind of how I think about it a little bit. I don't know that it's the first thing on my mind, but it is a part of it. Like I do want to be someone that I am not. Like I want to improve, and I talk a lot about books and how they've impacted me a lot. And those books, I have to take the ideas, the truth that's in there, basically make that truth me. Absorb those ideas, like Max, you were saying earlier. Excuse me. It's easy to read books and do nothing and not change. You need to like make those ideas a part of yourself, and when you do that, you change. And I think it does relate into the routine, because I've recognized that environment, for example, is important. I used to think when I was younger, I think I am a relatively independent person, but I used to think that I wasn't changed by my environment. And the older I got, the more I started realizing, yes, my environment is basically forcing me to focus on certain things. And I am, in a sense, a victim of my environment, but I don't have to be a victim, because I can change my environment. I can be careful. Who am I listening to? Who am I hanging out with? And like my books and things like that are things where I can talk to, in a sense, the wisest people that ever lived. And I know I need that. I'm not innately smart enough to come up with all the great ideas that people have discovered throughout history. I can get those ideas now. And so I love my whiteboard, where I've just put my goals there, put the simple truths and principles that I found on it, and I try to put it, like I have a whiteboard right here. I try to put those things on it to take advantage of the fact that my environment affects me. And so I try to read every day. I try to like look at that whiteboard, and if I'm not looking at it, just remind myself what's on there. Remind myself what my goals are, or remind myself what those simple principles are that I've found so far in my life. And I try to work out every day. Ideally I would work out, read, then start my day. Like work out, read, think, then start my day. But I do have it's not the most structured thing for me. There's been times where a lot of it changed when I started working for myself. When I was working at a job and I had to show up there at 8 or whatever, I would have to do everything in the morning. And so it was kind of forced. If it was going to get done, it'd have to be done then. And that worked amazing. Like even for me, I just set myself, I just got to read like 10 pages. And it's amazing how those little, like just setting a goal of 10 pages a day over time adds up. And it did take a while. It wasn't like I read the book and then I was this new person right away. Slowly over time, those books started affecting me. And I can just tell, like, who am I now versus who was I? And there is a difference. And like that little bit of structure and that force, like if these things are important, to make sure they're a part of my life, was not, from what I can tell now, and in my experience, was not a waste of time and was very worth it.
Just touch on victim too. I hate that word so much. Just and this is I'm clarifying it within context. Like obviously there are victims out there of all these crimes and all these things, but just the victim mentality is what I'm talking about. And just if you can just I've tried so hard to just get that out. Even if I feel like someone's wronged me, I never consider myself a victim. I never like give them that power, right? I never give someone else that, because you're giving it away. If you whatever happens, you know, someone says something bad to you, something does something bad to you, whatever it is, and you're offended, or, you know, something happens because of it. Of course, there's exceptions, but generally speaking, it only means something to you. It only hurts you. It only does these things because you give it meaning. If I call Maxim, oh, you look like a toaster. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's nothing about me that looks like that doesn't even make any sense. But, you know, if I tell Jake, oh, you're a fake athlete or something, or, oh, you just do all this stuff for you know, just to show off or whatever. So that's something where, you know, you may think if he would get offended by that comment, for example, it would be because maybe deep down he thinks, oh, am I? Like there's something to it. There's something you can hang on to, and then you can think about it otherwise. But that's all considering that Jake even cares what my opinion is, who I am, you know, like different levels of relationships and stuff like that. But the point is, if you give someone power, over you, they're going to have power over you. They're going to be able to affect you like that. And not giving them that has been one of the best things you can do. So just the victim part is just, it's not productive. It's not, I guess the only thing you could do with it is if you see something happen like that, you can make yourself better and these other 10,000 ways we could talk about. But just once you identify as that, like the identity part, once you identify, oh, I'm a victim of this thing that happened, then you give other things power. You take away your own power in that situation.
Yes, you do.
And so easy to do. So yeah, it's so daily routines. Oh, I'll just go with mine real quick too. I'm actually pretty routine oriented. I mean, every day I take a run. I do exercise of some sort. If I feel like I'm going to cheat on my diet in some way, then I always make up for it. I take an extra run. Oh, I'm going to have some pastry today. Well, that's an extra run in the evening. I gotta balance it out. Not always perfect, but yeah, exercise routine in the morning. Usually morning time is my heads down, deep work time. I'm like creating, I'm producing, I'm reading, I'm consuming of some sort, also taking care of the family, have responsibilities on that side too. But I always set things up. And luckily my family structure works this way too. I can have dedicated time to pump stuff out, to get stuff done, to, work on either creating content or work on my day job or whatever it is. I have a very flexible job, which makes this whole system even more beautiful. So it just enables me to just be very effective and produce things every day. And I think it rubs off. Even the people I'm around me, it really is contagious. When you see when the people around you are producing and operating at a high level, it's inspirational. It inspires me when I see people who are doing, cranking out really good stuff. I'm like, whoa, it helps me think, hey, that's the bar. If I want to have what they have or do what they do, I need to step it up and stuff. So anyways, very routine oriented. And yeah, vitamins, exercise, mental health is your wealth. And you don't have physical health without your mental wealth. We'll get into that as well. But just taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, gratitude, being thankful, and just eating good, all that type of stuff just leads into me being able to be effective as much as I can every day. And which also kind of there's the other side too. It's really hard for me to relax. And not just, okay, I can relax on the couch. I can take some, I can watch some TV. I can do something like that, get into a show. But actually taking a vacation, that's hard for me.
I love that you say that.
It's so,
same for me. I hate it.
How do you when there's an opportunity to take time off, what do you do? Max can go first. Are you even able to take advantage of it?
I mean, yeah, it's really hard. I do not like vacations. If there's some way that the vacation, I can make it productive, that's fine. But I get stressed, honestly. Like if I have to go somewhere, like even just Christmas, it's like, like I'm not moving forward, and it is hard for me.
I prep beforehand for Christmas, for example. If you're traveling or seeing family, I'm like, all right, let me blaze as much as I can beforehand. I'll feel better once I'm there. But that's just one way I look at it.
Yeah, I do have a hard time with that. And I feel unusual in that aspect, though. It's interesting hearing you guys kind of had both said something similar. Yeah, I don't know. I take so much satisfaction and peace in pursuing things that whenever I'm forced to not do that, it is hard for me. And I love what I do. So it's like, it's interesting. I do think there's something to be said for breaks. I'm a huge fan of like what people call meditation. I think sometimes that word strikes people the wrong way, but basically just clearing your mind is very productive. You can get so caught up in the moment that you forget the big picture. Like you were saying, Max, your problems can kind of consume you, and you're not able to be over your problems. Your problems are you, and clearing your mind is something that ideally I do every day as well. And I'm continually impressed with the creative thoughts that come into my mind when I ironically clear my mind. When I for me, it looks like just focusing on breathing, try to just focus on that one thing. And then thoughts come into my head and I basically just tell them like, yes, you need to answer this email. Yes, you have this problem you don't have figured out. But I basically, yes, that is a problem. Get it out of my mind and get it out of my mind. And all of a sudden, almost every time, it's like, oh, I have this epiphany, like, oh, this is a great idea. Now I can like refine it, make sure it's actually a good idea. But a lot of bigger picture, the fundamental like core ideas come into my mind when I actually clear my mind, and that kind of looks like a break. And I think it's extremely valuable for me. It's one of the most important things. I think the books are awesome because they give me the new ideas that I think influence that creative idea, but they're both needed. The active environmental input and then the thinking process are both needed. And I think sometimes the thinking for me is a break, like intentionally stopping, clearing everything out. And I've definitely found that's been really valuable to me.
Jake, where do most of your ideas come from? Do they come from like actual like meditation, sitting down, like and doing, I guess, the traditional way? Do they come from the shower, like massage table? You're laying there for an hour. You just get to, click. Like, it's not about not having ideas. It's about having space for such ideas. To me, that's how I made use of it, at least. I know everyone has a different way, but yeah, how do you come up with your best stuff, Jake?
Yep, that's a great question. So, fun story. Back when I think my mom told me this story. Back when I was 14, I actually wanted to become a Shaolin monk, which is why I had a Japanese tattoo and I meditate for like an hour a day and did a lot of this like kung fu practice and stuff like that, which is where I kind of first learned about meditation. And like for 6 months straight, I meditated for an hour a day. So I think meditation is massively important. And at some point, meditation just kind of becomes a part of you. Like one of the big ideas, because I went through most of Tony Robbins' stuff, and a big idea that I still remember to this day is he calls it NET, which is no extra time. And I'll kind of give an example. Like back when I was a software engineer, my software job was like a 4-hour kind of travel thing away. So I would wake up 5 a.m., 6 a.m., gym, 7 a.m., go to the train to the city, train to bike, to bus, to office. And then I would come back. And that's when I learned about this no extra time thing. So on the actual train, I would actually be studying coding and actually doing coding exercises. And then in the train station, I would actually go ahead and rope skip and do my fight training. And then when I go back home, I would actually... So I look like a complete psychopath. You can imagine a guy having a full-on rope skipping workout in the middle of a crowded train station just because I didn't have any other option. And then after kind of finishing my work, I would go train MMA. And then I would fall asleep like watching coding tutorials. So at some point, like I think the first person I kind of heard say it where it was okay for me to kind of act that way was Grant Cardone. And he was like one of the first guys I ever listened to. And he was the one that made me feel okay being so obsessive. Because I've always had this question, like, is it normal to be this obsessed with something? Like the amount of times I fell asleep on my laptop just working and trying to code and watching coding tutorials at like 2 a.m. and just falling asleep from exhaustion. I always felt weird about it because I was always like the only guy that wanted to work that hard in my immediate environment. My parents, not my family, not my parents, not my friends. And I was like, the moment I heard Grant Cardone say that, the way he put it is like obsession is required. And I feel like everybody kind of has that period in their life. I don't remember where I heard it, but I think it's from the movie 300, where they called it shock therapy. So I feel like I went through a couple stages in my life where I purposely put myself into shock therapy situations, whether that was door-to-door sale, cold calling, doing that stuff, like training in the actual train station, then MMA, and then competition. I kind of paving the path to like the character traits that I wanted to have. And I like this idea of shock therapy because I put out this tweet today where even though I'm doing extremely well in possibly every possible metric in life, I still feel like I'm underperforming my potential. And even now, because it's so ingrained in me, it's hard for me to even fall asleep knowing I'm underperforming. Like last night, I lay in bed for like 2 hours just kind of thinking, what can I do more? What can I do more? And it feels very unhealthy, but the moment you kind of come to terms where like obsession is required and all of these massively, massively successful people you look at are obsessed. They're the black sheep in their entire environment. And one of the things I love about the internet is like, I like saying this thing where borders are a psyop. Your country is not the only place that exists. On the internet, you can connect with people who have the exact same mindset as you. And I think that's massively important because it normalizes this idea of obsession. Like, dude, like there are kids freaking 19 years old making 250 grand a month. That completely breaks your worldview. And you're like, holy crap, like there's more out there.
Well,
yeah,
you
I call it
remind me of
shock
Alex.
therapy.
You remind me of Alex Ramosi when he was you got me listening to him when after the last one. You didn't even mention, you didn't message me, you didn't say nothing. You just mentioned the name, and I remember after the interview, I'm like, he said Alex Ramosi or something like that. And I typed it in. I'm like, oh, there's a guy. He does all this stuff. And then now I'm down that rabbit hole. I've been down that rabbit hole for weeks now, and
Ramosi is incredible.
So many things. But it reminds me of I was listening yesterday, and when I was driving, and he said he was talking about what was it? Where he every time he would measure himself, he would see, it was a Kylie Jenner. He's like, oh, Kylie Jenner is a billionaire. And he's like, that killed it for an entire day. He was like upset that he wasn't at that level yet. Like, look at, she can do it. And, all the advantages and stuff that she came from and had all that stuff done. And all the credit to her. She did it. I mean, she put in the work, whatever. But for him, his goal was, he thinks I can provide more value. Why am I not a billionaire yet? And that motivated him. It like tore him down for a while. Just he could not believe he was not at that level yet. So that's that kind of motivation I think you're describing.
Yeah, partly. And then there's kind of like this whole reality trend surfing idea where comparison is poison to the soul. So one of the things you have to be extremely careful of is comparing yourself to other people and feeling bad about yourself, because your habitual energetic state becomes your life. So if you constantly feel if you feel disappointed about your situation, you'll attract more situations where you become disappointed, because that's your habitual energetic vibration. So you do have to operate from a state of mind. I think that the story they tell in the book is when you want to move, a lot of people think I'll move to a new country and all my problems will be solved. Like I have a tattoo over here. I can't show it because of the suit, but it says, wherever you go, there you are. And essentially what it means is you can't run away from your own shadow. Meaning that if you have problems wherever you are, moving to a new country or moving into a new place will not change until you change your energetic state. You have to become grateful of whatever place you're at now, and you have to become grateful of all the things you experience and all the things that you have. And then you'll attract lifelines and situations where you have more to be grateful for. So disappointment, like comparison is a very slippery road, because sometimes you end up comparing and you feel disappointed and you attract more things that disappoint you instead of more abundance and more gratitude and stuff like that. Reality trend surfing is a game changer, man. Like I learned it from massively like hyper successful people. Like the guy I originally learned it from, he was worth 7 million when I met him. I joined his mastermind, and 3 years later he was worth 100 million plus, zero crypto, just pure real business and real estate. And he was the one that shared this idea of normalization and reality trend surfing with me. So if these hyper successful people are talking about it, I'm like, okay, humble yourself a little bit and learn it.
Yeah, that's is that one of the biggest barriers? Maybe that's one of the biggest barriers I ran into too. Is people, especially with Richard, people just they can't get over like themselves and their perception. There's their scam indicator that's malfunctioning, as we all know that, and they just can't get into it enough to actually soak in what he's talking about, the message and all the gems you can get from it. How is that? Is that the biggest thing to overcome learning from people who are wildly successful, who may be, who may not jive with your typical person who's putting themselves out there? They're not humble. They're not, all this stuff, but hey, they have a lot to learn. How do you get past that? Because I think our community could double today if just all the people who could get past the stuff that Richard Hart says and acts and stuff, if they could just get past that, they would buy into the actual, what he's actually talking about.
100%. I think the main idea is ego. I think through meditation and stuff like that, you learn how to remove your ego, which is why I love meditation.
Get out of your
so
own
much.
way, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And it's just whenever you look at people, I always try to expose myself to new ideas and contrarian worldviews. And then I take what I like and I discard what I don't like. I never hate the person. Yes. I just like, what do they believe? Exactly. What are the principles? What are the values? Exactly. What can I take? How can I implement it in my own life? And kind of take away the person and focus on what is the message. And a lot of people, like another example, you have Richard Hart in the crypto space. And just like in the whole masculinity space, you have Andrew Tate. He's a perfect example of that. People hate him and hate him and hate him. But then when you actually listen to his message, you can be like, okay, I should improve here in my area of life. I actually like this idea. I don't like this idea. You take what you like. You discard what you don't like. You don't hate the dude and completely disregard the message. Yeah.
I don't think people intuitively realize like the nuance that is other people. Like they may see a problem in someone and then automatically throw everything else away about that person. And no one is perfect. Everyone has problems, but there are certain successful people that if they have something that I want to pay attention to what made them successful. And like you said, I have the ability to take the good, leave the bad. And I try to tell people that in my YouTube channels. I'm just a kid, you know, just a guy trying to go at this myself. I know I don't know it all. Here's what I'm doing. Here's why. Here's my explanations. But look at me the same way. Like if there's something good here, be selfish for it. And that's how I read these books, is I'm selfish. Like there's not a right way to read the book necessarily. Take the value that's there. Skip paragraphs. Who gives, like, this is all for you. Just be selfish. If you find like a couple good things in a book, underline them, take that, change your life because of that thing. And I would be really careful, you know, just automatically turning someone off completely, especially if you can tell that they have something that you think is valuable. Like they probably know something that you don't, and you can probably learn from them.
I love that. You don't need to be virtuous when you're learning, when you're consuming. You don't need to be like, I just, Maxim saying it, I just was able to like put that together. Like you don't need to say, oh, this is a good person, I need to learn from them. You can learn from, like I was in the chat a second ago, you know, somebody mentioned Grant Cardone, he's a scammer or something like that. I'm like, I don't even, there's another guy who was supposed to be Napoleon Hill. Like he was like, you know, had this reputation, whatever too. And I'm like, I learned a ton from his book. So I don't care if he's a scammer or not. I don't read his books because I think he's a good guy. I read his books because I want to learn something. So you can learn from scammers, you know, alleged scammers, whatever. You can learn from bad people. You don't need to always learn from good people to get, you know, good things that you can use and reuse in your life. So I love the way you put it, Max, and that you really hit it on the head on that one. Well, let's get into the wealth mindset more too. I think we set everyone up to like, you know, how to reason about things, how to think about, you know, how to get past yourself, you know, don't get in your own way, all that stuff. What I want to start with a little bit of inversion, I guess, too. Like what is a poor mindset? I'll let Jake
Somebody's been watching Hormozy.
I love that guy. Great. Should I pull up the Alex Hormozy video? No.
Who did you say to answer that, Max?
I said, let's do some inversion. Talk about what is a poor mindset, and then Jake referenced Alex Hormozy, which you know, he has all these videos that talks about that. But like, yeah, what is a poor mindset, Jake, and like how can we use that to you know, to get into the wealth mindset even?
Oh yeah, that's actually a great question. What does it require to be poor and then do the opposite? I think in the inversion method kind of came from Charlie Munger, and then I learned it through Hormozy. And essentially what it is a lot like with the identity work stuff. If you want to be poor, definitely make your past your present. Like who you were in the past is who you are now. You would definitely do that if you want to stay poor. Also, another way to stay poor is never listen to other people. Always think you're smarter than everybody. Another thing would be expect everything to happen without putting massive amounts of work in. There's a lot of talk nowadays about like, hey, working smart and stuff like that. But all of the hyper successful dudes I know, yes, they work smart, but they also work harder than anybody you ever know. And this whole like work smart thing is like a psyop. You can work it's impossible to start a massive business on 2 hours a week, no matter what they tell you. So definitely have a low work ethic. Don't listen to other people. Have a massive ego where you shut off all external information. Definitely don't read books. Like the first book, which is kind of funny, you mentioned Napoleon Hill, I ever read was Think and Grow Rich. And that's kind of what started the book frenzy in the beginning. One of the things that people also have to be careful of is when you want to stay poor, you definitely want to listen to the opinion of everybody and not just the people who are successful in their field. Like Richard Hart, you should probably not take his health advice, but you will take his crypto advice. So definitely listen to everybody. Listen to your parents.
I guess on that one, it would be you wouldn't take his crypto advice because he gives health advice, right? He can't be an expert because look at him, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And he has good health advice, but I'm like, come on, yeah. I'll rather listen to a dude that is extremely healthy, you know? Those would be the big things.
Yeah. What do you think, Maxim? What are some of the things that to help you, like the poor mindset, just I mean, off the top of my head, the victim mentality, that I feel like that contributes a lot to people's poor mindset. But what are some of the things you came across that you've even seen in other people where you're like, man, if you have this particular thing, and if you changed it, it would be, you would be able to amplify yourself so much more.
I think there's a lot that goes into that. It's a lot, but they're not complicated things once you see them. At least that's my experience. So it's hard for me to answer without talking to the wealth mindset. I like the inversion idea, asking yourself, what would it take for me to not get this thing? And sometimes by talking about it that way, you can clarify what you should do. It's an interesting kind of mind trick. I think there is something to that. I think people, I'll try to talk to the poor mindset. Like you said, believe that who you are now is what you will be. Don't believe you can do it. Believe that because people have done it, it's because there's something special. Don't put into yourself. Don't try. Don't come up with a dream worth fighting for. Just like you said, don't take responsibility. Blame everything around you for why you are the way you are. That would be ideas of someone that is going to be poor, and they're not going to be happy, in my opinion. Don't find meaning in anything you do. Just take away all responsibility, blame everything else for your problems. Don't even try to fix them.
Yeah. Keep working 9 to 5.
One of the things I wanted to add in there is, I think one of the best things I've ever done was have a massive focus on energy work and health. Because a lot of people have this idea where, from the movies, and a lot of the movies are fucking garbage. Yes. Complete garbage, psyops, propaganda. Have you ever noticed in the movies that always, like, you have like Navy SEALs of absolutely badass rugged men led by like some 1.60 meter weak girl? Like, all movies are turning into propaganda, so I don't even watch movies anymore. Exactly.
I'm with you. I think, I hate it. I think some of the older movies I appreciate more than ever because I can contrast them to some of the new ones. They actually had some good principles. The heroes had attributes of real heroes. The new ones now, like, this guy would never be successful. The way that he's approaching this, it is luck, it is chance, it is just given innate abilities and nothing else. And then, he is influenced by the girl that is leading him emotionally and pathetically, and the women are not real, strong, awesome women. It's what the fools think a strong, awesome woman is, which is someone that puts down the man. That is not the power that women have. Like, it is terrible. And I care about it even more because now I have kids, and the more modern movies, I can't let them watch any of this because unconsciously these stories are going to be what is in the back of their head and influencing them. I do not want this. Like, kids' movies are just as bad. It's the same lies built into the story. Stories are powerful, and I'm so with you on that,
dude. One of the biggest things where I kind of had like an epiphany was, if you want to learn a lot about somebody's character, you ask them what movie character inspires you most, because usually those are the character traits you aspire to be. And when I kind of went back into my past, and there was 2 movies that massively inspired me. One was Gladiator, and the second one was Never Back Down. And then also growing up, which is why with the whole kids thing, is I think something that shaped my character so much was watching Dragon Ball Z. I'm not sure if you guys know Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
But that was the epiphany of just working yourself to the bone. Yeah, working yourself to the bone, getting stronger.
Some of anime, even Naruto, this kid that's like looked down on by everyone, like fights harder, who will never give up. Like there's some good there. That's not, in my opinion, the worst story to grow up hearing of this, this kid that everyone pushes him down. He refuses to give up and comes out well. And that does match closer to reality. And I like anime too, because they're so extremely over accentuated. But it's like that passion and feeling. It's an over accentuated story, but it's kind of an archetype for some of how the world really works. And there's this battle inside of you that they're kind of with anime, just accentuating that battle that you have inside of your head. I do appreciate it. I like what you said too. You kind of made me want to answer what is a person or a movie character that I feel has affected me, and what I think it is one of them would be the Dread Pirate Roberts in Princess Bride. This farm kid that leaves, goes on a ship, learns all this stuff, comes back powerful, and has, is able to. It's a total comedy, but I did as a kid associate a lot with that. He beat the strongest guy, he beat the smartest guy, he beat the sword fighter. Like he came back, but he was working for it also. And I love the fact that he was like not walking around telling everyone how good he was. It was the circumstances would come and then he would just dominate and everyone would be like, holy smokes, who is this guy? That resonated a lot with me.
Yes. I just want to point out real quick, Jake is taking notes, I'm pretty sure. So if he's taking notes,
I am taking notes.
If he's taking notes, unless you think you're smarter than Jake, just throwing it out there. These guys are killing it. Go ahead.
Dude, I think it's massively important because there's like a saying that came to mind. I'm not sure where I heard it, but stories speak to your subconscious. So like I think Andrew Tate was the one that kind of pointed out to me. I was listening to one of his podcasts where, have you ever noticed in the modern day TV series, it's always the man that is a stumbling idiot and the woman that is the leader of the household. And the man like barely knows how to like hold a glass and he's a stumbling idiot and all of this stuff. Dude, it's so garbage. And one of the things I kind of was one of the major ideas of which, because I post this a lot, like filter your information, because what you consume is what you become. So if you consume these TV series, you subconsciously allow yourself to be a stumbling idiot.
It's the opposite of. Go ahead. Sorry. It's the opposite of what you want to do.
Ahead.
You are playing scenarios of exactly what you do not want. You want to play scenarios, but you want them to be the picture of what you should be striving for. And I'm following you. I like what you're saying, Jake.
I think heroes and honor. I just answer the question too. Like the things that I grew up watching that motivated me, inspired me, got inside my head. That always did. I was always a kid who was just going out of my way to get hurt or just to try new things or push myself to the limits and stuff. And I think, and it depends on your personality. Some kids will watch that stuff and be like, not for me. And some kids will take it and run with it and just make it, part of their personality and help them grow and achieve all these things. And for me, that's something that I agree with you all is seriously missing in today's world of the, like you said, I don't want to get into the whole rabbit hole of like, masculinity and all that stuff too, but just in general, being a hero, a man or woman, being a hero, having nobility, having honor, treating people with respect, and just going out of your way to, sacrifice, part of yourself for whether it's the greater good or doing the right thing and getting rewarded for it or doing the right thing. And just, all these, I think that's what still speaks to me today. Even though a lot of the Marvel movies are horrible these days, after Endgame, it kind of went downhill, in my opinion. But the ones, at least from the 2010s, they have a lot of good stories that still are reminiscent of how what it takes to be an aspiring person. Like, and when other people look at that, that's what people can say. Okay, why do we have sports? They're useless. Why do we have hero stories? They're useless. They don't do anything for the world. The counter for that, I would say, is they inspire people. They show people what it's like to be superhuman. And everyone can do it, but if you're not inspired to do it, if you're watching garbage movies, you're never going to get there.
Dude, I think you're both going to laugh at this, but whenever I need motivation, I legit watched Dragon Ball Z AMVs because it reminds me of the childhood and all of the character traits that I wanted to embody. Like when it comes to like Dragon Ball Z, there was like a one story where I think Vegeta, he lost a fight. He got so pissed off about it that they go back into the gravity chamber. And essentially what the gravity chamber is this area where they train and the gravity is so much heavier than normal, meaning that everything they do is a lot harder and they can barely move. And then over time they get better and better. And whenever they lose a fight, they would disappear for like a month, only train, only focus on the things they did wrong, get better at it. And then they would come back and win. And I think as a kid, I think it just spoke to my subconscious, and that's exactly how I handle problems now. Fuck, I was wrong here. I did not understand this. I lost here. Why did I lose? Like when I was an MMA fighter, between every round, I would actually like write down what I did wrong. oh, I didn't duck here, I didn't do a level change, I kind of did takedown incorrectly. And I was always the weird kid sitting in the corner with my notebook in between the rounds, kind of noting down my mistakes. And I think it's because of Dragon Ball Z. This is such a funny thing, but man, it's freaking absolutely massive.
Dude, I think people are afraid, and this is what I tell myself too. They're afraid to look at failures. But if you're going to improve, you actually need to focus on them. You're doing it in the context of something better and bigger. Like you're not drawing yourself down by, oh, I just suck, but you're focusing on like there is a lot of good that can happen by focusing on what went wrong and aligning yourself. What happened, where do I want to be, what stopped me, what can I work on, what's the most useful thing that I could do that will make me get closer to this goal. And fear sometimes I think stops people from doing that. And it's almost counterintuitive. You need to be more selfish. In selfishness, you need to you can't face fear, I don't think, unless you understand that fear is what gets you what you want. And once you realize it's in your best interest to do that, then I think for me, it helps the fear go away. And I think it is really valuable. And it's pretty awesome to be able to walk around without fear. And if I did something wrong, I actually want to know. I'm not afraid of it. And it's a good way to live, I think.
Sure. I all the media and maybe, all our parents' generation said this too. Oh, all the stuff they're growing up now watching is crap. But I don't know. I think today's modern, it's shifted in a way that's way different than we've ever seen before. But maybe all of our parents said that before too, and it all worked out fine. I guess that's the counterpart you could say to it. Or if you were to steel man how today's media is good, but it's so hard to do once you've seen it. It is, especially if you have kids and stuff. It makes you even more concerned, and you're like, oh, I don't want the next generation being a bunch of dummies, or being, emasculated and all that stuff, or again, we're not going to get in that. That's a great conversation. We're going to try to stay on the wealth mindset though. So we talked about poor mindset. How do you? I just want to go down what are some of the when you're building wealth, and I'm not really talking about the technicals aspect of investing and things like that, but just sticking to the philosophy, sticking to the psychology of money and wealth and investing and things like that. What are some of the maxims, if you will, the principles, the affirmations, the things that you've used? And Jake's went through a few so far, I think, too. But just, I like I have down here, like confidence. I think confidence is one, demanding respect, holding yourself accountable, using inversion like we did, inversion to list out all the things you don't want to become, to know how you just don't do those, and now you'll become what you want to become. Like the principle of inversion, super powerful in finance and everything else in the world. Compound interest. What are some of the things you found most important when you've been able to build up your own wealth, and that maybe people they haven't utilized enough? Maybe they see it, they heard of it, they just cannot understand how to do what you've been successful with so far. And let's start off with Jake.
One of the big things I realized, and I think this came to Hormozy, because I've been following Hormozy for like 6 years, back when he first started. And one of the things he was massive on is the actual how-to of how to build a cash flowing business, how to invest it. The how-to is by far and away the easiest part. You join a mastermind, you pay the coach, pay your mentor, you read a book, whatever it might be, just some sort of high quality information that will get you to the end result. The how-to is by far and away the easiest part, and everybody's looking for that golden bullet, but the golden bullet doesn't exist. So the how-to is the easy part. The hardest part by far is building the character and skill traits. Why is it that one dude can join a course or get a coach or get a mentor and become a world champion, and the other dude can barely even win a bronze medal? It's the exact same amount of information, the exact same environment. The only difference is the character and skills of the person coming in. So I think a lot more people, this is how I operate. Whenever I want to learn something, I'm like, okay, who can I pay? Whose time can I buy? Because like in this whole crypto game, as an example, I gravitated towards Richard Hart like crazy. When I was like, okay, this guy knows a lot more about crypto than me. And what I did was I made an Excel spreadsheet with all of his live streams, and I noted how many times I went through each one. And I went through all of his live streams twice. And I wish I could pay Richard hard. I would throw money at him, but I can't. So that's why I did his live streams. I think the how-to is by far and away the easiest part. It's just character and skill traits. Just character and skill. Like, how consistent are you? Because a lot of people they start something and then they stop after 2 weeks because they don't see the results. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen the graph, but like, okay, this is the amount of action that you take. And then the results of these actions show up 2 months later over here. But if you quit in the middle, you did a bunch of actions, but no results showed up yet. And people constantly go through this loop. And you have lawn care millionaires, you have brick and mortar millionaires, you have online millionaires, you have gym owner millionaires. Like, everything can be scaled, everything can be done. It's just consistency, and then acquiring the how-to is the easy part. Like, that's by far and away the easiest, and people overcomplicate it. Find somebody, pay them, do it.
What is the just not reframe it, but I'll go off on the side for a second too, just being part of it still though. Is there something you feel like if you were missing this particular attribute or this particular part of your mindset that everything would just fall apart? Is it just the determination, the will to win, or like, is there something missing from that? If you didn't have this, like inversion, it's still got in my mind. Like, if you didn't have this, you wouldn't be where you are today, or you wouldn't be going towards the goal that you're going towards today.
I think it will be speed of implementation, because you can learn a how-to, but you don't really know it until you've done it, and then you start understanding the nuance what is the saying, like, the devil is in the details, and it's true. You can learn how to do outbound sales, how to make cold calls, how to do door-to-door sales. Like, you can read a how-to book, but until you do it, you don't understand, okay, I should approach like this, my body should be positioned like this is my tonality, these are the words I should use. That's all the stuff you learn by doing. So I think there's this saying in like a lot of the communities where you can have a dumb person that comes in, implements everything rapidly, doesn't ask questions. Like, here's the ABC, he does ABC, doesn't ask questions, and he gets the result. And then you have the smart ass that comes in and is like, oh, but what if he did A like this or B like this and C like this? And he spends 2 months kind of trying to optimize something instead of doing it. So I think speed is massive. Getting out of your own way and just implementing without questioning is the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, bias for action came to mind when you said that too. Just thinking about some of the. And by the way, Amazon, the company Amazon, they publish these leadership principles that they expect a lot of the people that work for them to go by and all these things. So even though it may not, like Amazon, a corporation, or evil or blah 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 like that, you don't read, don't learn to be virtuous. Don't only learn from those things, even if you don't like them. A lot of those, I think you can. I'll get the link and drop in the chat. But a lot of those leadership principles I've went over before and I thought about. And when you said that, Jake, bias for action came to mind. It's like, that's what I feel like has helped me so much, is I'm able to. I see a problem, go solve it. I see something, go do it, and follow through. Not just do it and then go halfway and be like, this sucks. So, like, no, if there's you need to learn how to quit too at a certain point. If it's going nowhere and you're spending a lot of time on it, that's a different story. But if you're able to keep that momentum, first of all, recognize what you need to do. Second of all, execute on that, and then keep the momentum where you actually finish with that, and you produce something out of it, and something that you can keep compounding yourself with. Bias for action has been one of my my top things that I feel like have helped me become successful or at least conquer a lot of the things I want to do. Maxim, what do you think? What would you be missing, or what have you used the most? What couldn't you live without to achieve the wealth and the mindset and the success you've had so far?
Yeah, let me just start answering, and you tell me if this is helpful or not. I feel like one thought that is pretty commonly on my mind is you can have like a couple things you want, but you can't have everything. And I think that applies to so much of life. And it's really important when someone's setting their goals that they know what they actually want. And the reason that's important is because you're going to have to give up things for those. If you don't know what your hierarchy of values are, you're not going to know what to give up for those things. And you're going to have to do it. If you want to be very, very, very good at one thing, you're going to have to give up other things for it. If inside of you, you're having a battle that I really don't want this because of this, and you're never going to go anywhere. Knowing what you want is very important. I think also believing that you can do it is very important. For me, listening to other people that have, one common realization I have is that these people are not that special. They've achieved special things. They're not that smart. They're not that clever. They're not that genetically gifted. Sometimes, they are a little bit one way, extreme in certain areas. But overall, for what they've achieved, which is sometimes million times more than other people, they're not million times smarter. And in hearing these stories, reading biographies or whatever of people helps me believe I can do that. Maybe I won't be a billionaire, but at least I can easily achieve $1 million or a couple million or whatever. That all of a sudden becomes believable. And I think that's important because you will not take action if you don't believe you can. And also when it comes to discipline, I think discipline is commonly misunderstood. People think discipline is trying harder. And usually that is not, in my opinion, the case. Discipline comes from, for example, when you have a goal that is so good that you're willing to give up something for it, you're like, I want to get up in the morning because, man, if I can make this work, that would be so incredible. The discipline just follows. And you can set up scenarios. Like if it's weight loss, well, don't fill your house with just a bunch of sugar. Don't make it so you have to rely on this discipline that you don't have. I know I don't have it, but I understand how to hack the system. And but yeah, so anyway, setting clear goals, being really specific, continually working on what are those real goals. What does that exactly mean? What is $1 million? When is $1 million? Is it $1 million cash flow? Is it $1 million net worth? But just defining it, it doesn't have to be money either. It applies to anything. Believing you can, and then go find people that have done it. Find people that are a step or two ahead of you. Listen to what they've done. Don't reinvent the wheel. Go out there and implement what other people have done. Those things are really important. I think the 80-20 rule is really, really valuable. There's almost an infinite number of ways to do things wrong, and there's a few ways that few things that you can tweak right now that will really leap you forward. And there's a million ways to do things wrong. Like just try to focus on and ask myself, what are the things that matter most? And all of that to me, like the Stephen, I think it's Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Start with the end in mind is a good continually in my mind. And yeah, start with the end, believe you can, listen to people that have done it, that are better than you, and then evaluate yourself along the way. Like, okay, where am I at today relative to the goal? That'll help clarify what those 20% of things that matter are, that are going to help you getting there, that are going to help you get there. And then another thing is understand that you're not going to get there in a day. It's going to take usually very, very simple daily steps that over time will add up. And if you stop part way, like you were saying, which most people do, you will not achieve it. You're going to have to, like, wealth rarely comes, that especially if the wealth is going to stick, it rarely comes in a year. It usually takes 5 or 10 years or more. And if you're able to stick with something for like 5 years or 10 years, in my experience, it starts slower than you think. Like at like the first month, they're like, where am I? Like, I've done nothing. But 5 years in, you're like, how in the world did I get this far? Like, I can't believe how far I've gotten. And it's, I don't know. Those are thoughts that come to my mind.
Just on the diet or the not keeping stuff around your house that you don't want to have anything to do with. Everyone out there, if you want to start a diet today, the best thing you could do is go in your kitchen or go in your cupboard, take out all the sugary stuff, all the stuff that you shouldn't be eating, go to your trash can, throw it in the trash can. Don't think about how much it costs. Don't think about, don't starve yourself or anything. If you actually don't have a lot of money, then maybe don't do this. But like if you have plenty of resources and stuff, go throw it away, take it out the trash. Don't think anything else about it. Now you can't go eat the cookies or the ice cream if they're not in the fridge or in the cupboard. And then you can once you've did the cleansing, like set everything out that can't tempt you like that. Now you can think about, okay, what do I want to eat? What do I want to go buy? What do I want to fill my house with? Fill full of stuff that's going to make you healthy, and not tempt you and not put you in bad situations where, you're going to gain all the weight back and all that stuff. So anyways, that's one of the first things I did several times in my life for diets is I went in the kitchen. Don't think about how much it costs. Don't think about wasting the money. I know that hurts, but still throw it away, get it out of your sight. If you can't see it and you can't touch it, you can't eat it. It's simple.
One of the ideas that you guys kind of There's also something I learned from Hormozy. He says this a lot, where advanced people never not do the basics. And I love that saying.
Yes.
So I'll give an example. Like, for instance, in business, when I ran a marketing agency, in the beginning, when I did local businesses, I would go to these like client acquisition courses, and it was like, okay, you do cold calls, this is a script you follow, you say this, you book meetings. And then I will go through it, I'm like, this can't be it. This is too simple. And you constantly start looking for the more complex answer. And then you have like guys like Hormozy, you're like, okay, this is a script. Now all that matters is, okay, how many dials are you making? How many meetings are you booking? And those are the only two things that actually matter. And people think as people move up in business that they stop doing that stuff. But that's not true. They just hire people to do that stuff. The basics still happen. The advanced people are actually a lot better at the basics than the basic people. It's advanced people never not do the basics. And this whole like this can be it mentality. Like one of the examples I like giving is one of the biggest, like I think, painful mindsets that people have, like the poor mindset, is I'll do it all by myself. Like I posted this tweet, I think yesterday, is self-made is such a damn myth. We're just a combination of the people that came before us. We consume that information. So we're not self-made. We are made by them. We're a combination of all of the information we've consumed. And it's like this whole I'll do it all by myself mentality. Imagine this. You go to a fighting gym and you walk into the fighting gym and you're like, yeah, coach, don't worry. You don't need to teach me anything. I'll just start throwing my hands around and moving my body. I'll figure it out. I'll be fine.
Self-made fighter.
Exactly. Just like throw your hands around and shit like that and never listen to the actual coach. And in business, people approach it like that. And crypto people approach it like that. Like, okay, just generate cash flow in the real world, put it into good cryptos that have product market fit during good timings in the market. It can't be that simple. Let me go down the shitcoin road. Let me go down the 100x leverage load. And then they're forced to kind of confront the truth after they lose all of their money, instead of just realizing it shouldn't be complex. The simple things work. Advanced people never not do the basics. They do the basics more consistent for longer at a higher quality and more reps.
A lot of times I think why businesses fail is because they grow so fast they forget the basics. Like it really, and I mean, you're saying, like, I've tried to say that in a lot of my videos. I'm not trying to make things complex. I'm trying to make them simple. And it's the same. Like, that's why some of these books are good, because they remind you what the foundations are. What's those simple truths? Then you can take them with you everywhere and apply them. But they're usually, once you see them, they're not complex. They're very straightforward. Like, actually care for your customer, try to provide actual value. That should be one of the very top things. And if you're not doing that, if you're overcomplicating, trying to lie or like make yourself look this way, that's great. You can refine how your message is portrayed and things like that. But if your actual value is not there, guess what? In the long run, it won't work. And is that a complex idea? Is that rocket science? Do I sound so smart for saying that? I don't think so. But it's amazing how, like just believing some of those foundational things are the simple things, and they do play out over time, and it does work well.
I love what Naval says about getting rich too. He just talks about get rich first and then figure out what you want to do. But once it happens, you'll probably figure out that's not what you wanted in the first place. Like, that's what you weren't going for. Swimming in a pool of money. You were going for financial freedom. You were going for owning your own time. All those things. And I love the way he puts it, because so many people are just I got to do everything it takes to get rich. And that's great motivation, and maybe it'll work for you. Maybe it'll take you in the direction you need to go, or maybe it'll take you down another less virtuous road. But that it's once you get there, it'll be like, oh, I wanted to get rich, but I really just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
You'll have some other deeper meaning that you don't even know yet.
That's the truth for me. Is like, I realized that independence and freedom I value a lot, and I realized that there was a way that I could play the game, that I was giving up all my independence and freedom for money. And I realized that money's money wasn't the end goal. It was, for me, very high values of independence and freedom. And I had a switch in my own thinking when it's like for me right now, I want to make as much money as I can while being independent and free. And it's just because I don't want to counteract what I think is, for me, really valuable. And you're reminding me of that with what you said, Max.
Yes. It's one of those things that you don't really. It's almost. I thought about this before. You get so, or at least I'll say my personal experience. I get so, like, just. It's a huge motivator. Wealth in general, and wealth and everything that comes along with it. And it's almost like when you think about it, you're like, oh, what do I really want? What should I be focused on? But then I don't even want to get out of that mode, because that mode is such a driver. It's like that's the driver. But once you get to the destination, you can get whatever you want. You can choose your own thing after that, but you need some sort of driver, whether it's getting rich to give it all away, or getting rich for generational wealth, or getting rich to, set yourself up to do foundations, or buy a company or start a company. All these things, whatever your goal is, you need some sort of driver. So I guess to me, it's like, don't feel, whatever your driver is, don't feel guilty about that driver. But once you get there, wherever you're going, then make sure you make good decisions. Then make sure you understand, and maybe you figure this out along the way, what you actually want, or maybe it takes you getting there first. But whatever it is, make sure it's okay if it's different once you get there. It's like, be okay with that. Whatever you're doing now, and whatever you're doing once you get to where you want to be, it's going to be different, or it probably will be, and be okay with that.
Like, one of the biggest exercises I remember from Tony Robbins was, and this was a while ago, but he basically talked about your dream life number. When you ask people, how much does your dream life cost? 99.9% of people don't even have an idea. And then when you actually write it down, like, okay, maybe you'll have like a nice exotic car, a nice mansion or penthouse that you live in a major city, a good social life, an amazing dating life, whether that be a relationship or multiple, whatever you want to do, whether that be good brotherhood, good friends. Like, if you write all of that stuff down, and you actually like food, social life, stuff like that, like, my dream life is what I came down with, like 5.6 to like 7.8K a month. That's not millions of dollars. And I feel like everybody should kind of do that exercise. And obviously you can go into like private jets and multiple places. That's when the number goes up. But like, your initial dream life, it's a lot closer than people realize. And I think it's a massively valuable exercise. Because otherwise everybody has this ominous $1 million target or multi-million-dollar target. And then you're like, why is that the target? Oh, this guy said it. But that's not your target. That's his target. What's your target? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, well, I guess you got to couple that with, I mean, just for people listening, like some sort of passive income to make sure you're covering that burn rate too. Because once you get to the number, it's not like, oh, I don't need to make any money anymore. Like, if your number you come up with is $1 million or $2 million, and you're like, oh, I got there, I don't need to do anything else anymore. It's like, hey, you're going to burn through that. Like, do you want to live like this for a year or two? You want to live like this for the rest of your life? So that's important too, to have that kind of passive income, which probably one of the reasons that brought us all together, isn't it? Passive income.
Exactly. And it's easy to reverse engineer, because once you kind of have that target, let's say $5,000, then you basically, okay, what's your average portfolio returns in actual DeFi yield? And obviously there's other stuff you can do outside of HEX. But let's say it's 15% as an example. Like, you basically take 5,000 and you do that times 12, which is 60,000 a year, divided by 15%, which means your portfolio size should be roughly around 400 to 600 grand. And you're already at that target passively if you're able to generate 15% yield a year on average on your portfolio. And obviously, this is not accounting for a volatility, but that number is a lot closer than people realize.
Yeah, there's a lot of people moving to other countries or other states and things where it's cheaper, and that's going to cause fluctuations in your price calculations too.
Oh yeah.
So
100%.
Definitely, like, you don't live in San Francisco versus living in Eastern Europe or somewhere like that, or even just a cheaper state. Just go to Wikipedia and sort by the highest income states, or the highest cost or the lowest cost of living and stuff like that. And you'll see where your money goes the farthest if you want to. The only thing about doing that is now, okay, are you going to be able to live the lifestyle you want? Are you going to have where your friends? You got to live. You're probably going to leave some people behind. Are you okay with that? How there's a lot of other factors that go into it too. It's not just,
I'm going to have to be rude. I have to go have another meeting.
Oh, no worries. Me and Maxim will,
good to talk with you, Jake.
wrap it up. Yeah.
Likewise.
Appreciate
I like
it, Jake.
Maxim. I've been watching his channel for a while.
I'm glad you guys could meet and get together, and thanks for coming on, Jake. And we're gonna miss you, but me and Maxim we're gonna wrap this one up too. Appreciate it, man.
Continue on. You guys are awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah. See ya. And then there was two. We still got a few things to go over. We'll wrap up too. Do you have any time on, Maxim?
Nope.
Okay.
No timeline.
Cool. The goals versus systems, that's what I want to talk about too. That's something that I forget who was talking about. I mean, I go through all these quotes, I study all this material, and I can't attribute half of it to anybody half the time, unless it's like Naval.
That's probably a good thing. Right. You're making the ideas your own. They're not their ideas anymore.
Sometimes when I'm even doing shorts and stuff, I'm thinking like, did someone else say this quote, or did I listen to something someone said and I kind of just formulated it, or I think that's a good thing. Actually, it means that you're internalizing things, and it means you're able to come up with stuff. And we, in the world, there is attribution, there is copyright and trademark, all this stuff. But if you just internally for yourself, like whatever's beneficial and whatever you can share with other people, you don't need to go down this like laundry checklist of did I get credit to all this stuff? Like it's a lot of this. That's the external world. Like there's sometimes you just need to be like, whoa, this is something good. I need to say it. If I remember who said it, I credit them or what. But like this whole like, people getting mad over credit, or all the stuff that goes on in the broader corporate world of attribution. It's all just. I know that a lot of things would break down without patents and copyrights and trademarks and stuff. And you could say it's an evil system and it's bad, but it does, it does help capitalism in a lot of ways. And is it perfect? Absolutely not. But just the ability to use things, whatever you can for yourself, without having to think, oh my God, did I give somebody credit? Like that's an important skill too. A lot of people get very anxious about that type of stuff, where I'm like, I don't think you need to put that much time or effort into it.
I don't either. I mean, it's always good if they could be, especially if it's a direct quote or something. But if it's a general idea, in my opinion, it's rare that it's any one particular's idea. Maybe they articulated it in a certain way, but that idea rarely was really original to them.
Exactly, and so that was the prelude to goals versus systems. And again, I don't remember who was talking about this. Somebody I was listening to, but. It really struck me as, actually, I think it was Naval, and he was actually, funny enough, I think Naval was quoting someone else about it. Goals versus systems, though. I really try to set that up in my life too. I don't, of course, you're going to have goals, you're going to have things you want to get to, you're going to have these things you can measure and all this stuff too. But I always want to start with setting yourself up, having a system that makes, this is something Naval talks about too, increasing your luck surface area. So if you're able to, like if you're actually able to make your own luck, if you set up your environment in a way that attracts success, attracts good things, attracts compound interest going upwards. So I think so many people they get down, okay, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have all these goals. I'm going to tick them off as I get to them. I'm going to track and measure them. But the way you can even have even more success with those goals is to have systems that you put in place around you that either make, for example, have a more frictionless routine. So if you do have a daily routine, hey, maybe you get it out of the way in an hour and a half. Every day you do whatever you need to do to keep up your maintenance, keep up your stuff. And you have all this extra time to do, deep work and study and research. Or it could just be, you go to, you have better friends, or you have better networking events. You go to places where you're surrounded by people who are smarter than you, that you can learn from, that you do streams with people who you can learn from, stuff like that. So just setting up your life in a way that when people say, how'd you have all this success? Oh, you must have got lucky. You're like, no, I didn't get lucky. I made my own luck. And I did that through having these type of systems that help me be more effective. So, what do you think about goals versus systems? Do you apply that?
So
do you apply that as well?
I think that it's very hard to have a good system without starting with a goal. I think starting with a goal and then creating a system makes sense. I think David Goggins talks about how when he heard what the world pull-up record was, he broke down how many pull-ups was that an hour or every 10 minutes. And he created, okay, well then if I'm, doing my workouts for this is all I have to get to. And he broke it down into smaller parts. But on the day-to-day, it is the system that you're playing out. And there are bad systems and good systems. And systems matter. But I think it is hard to do one without the other. And I think it starts with the goal. If you don't know what you're working towards, how do you know your system is helping you get there?
It's a good way to frame it. Yeah, I have this looking. It's kind of like you're zooming out and saying, okay, maybe you have this overarching goal. I'm not even sure if it's a goal at that point. It's kind of like going in between. I don't know if there's a better. We can call it a goal. Like you zoom out, have this thing you want to get to, and then you say, how can I create the system that would enable this to be, for it to be unreasonable that I get there?
Exactly. Yes. That's what I like that a lot. I think, so like saying systems are everything would, if you took it to the extreme, potentially be bad, because then your system, like what's your system? Yeah, it doesn't have an end.
Yeah.
Like, cause you could have systems for lots of ends. You need to know which is your end. And I think those are personal questions. Like even Jake was saying, what's that amount of money? Helps you define what system in your particular environment would be the best to get there. And it's different for different people. And the amount that they're willing to give up is different for different people for different goals. I think they're both really important.
Gotcha. I want to go on to, before we wrap up, and Chad, if you have any questions, get them in too, because we'll wrap up probably the next 15 minutes or so, depending on how far we go on a lot of these. I think another thing I've been thinking about is compound interest, and how you can compound in a good way and compound in a bad way. If you keep taking advantage of your bad habits and keep you're in that cycle of, you can compound. I've seen people in my life compounding down, and I'm like, whoa. I keep seeing you do these things over and over who are not healthy. It's not healthy for you. Obviously, you keep having bad results, or you keep having to deal with these problems that makes no sense you should have to deal with, only because you keep doing these things that are not good for you. So compound interest can go both ways. I think every day or regularly, I think it's good to think about, how can I compound like up? Like, am I compounding up in whatever whatever I'm looking at, whatever, if it's relationships, if it's money, if it's whatever, am I going up or am I going down? And then you can evaluate, okay, what is making that happen? If it's something that you're going up with, maybe you want to increase it. Maybe you want to DCA, maybe, whatever it is that's helping you in that way, you can do that. And if you're going down, what can I remove? What can I do less of? What can I avoid? So compound interest, addressing it broadly and making it like this kind of mental model that's in the back of your mind when you're trying to accomplish things, you're trying to like introspect and look at your life and see where you're going. I guess maybe the question I could come up with this too is just, how do you compound up, and what are some ways you've seen yourself compound down that you've had to change over time?
Yeah, I think of I don't know, my thought goes to just starting and trying, kind of like what Jake was saying. I think he said something about that, like do something, take action. And in my experience, it's been surprising how fast it's been surprising how slow and how fast it's gone. At the beginning, it feels very, very slow, but the way compounding works is you start separating yourself from average, and your ability to take advantage of opportunities grows and grows. It's the observable truth, at least in my life. And you can compound down. It also makes me think of the 80-20 rule. If you're focusing on the 20% of things that really matter, you're compounding up. But just as much as the compounding can almost exponentially push you up, it can also exponentially push you down. If there's an area of your life, health or whatever, that is working against you, it's pulling you down, and it can just as easily exponentially push you down as it can exponentially push you up. Like compounding appears to be a very real thing, the way the world works. Good decisions over time give better and better results. Bad decisions over time give worse and worse results. And it appears to be the truth. And to me, I find that very, very motivating, because a good decision today isn't going to give me $1 million or something, whatever it's not going to give me the end result. But over time, that little bit of effort today was needed in order to compound on that little bit of effort. And it adds meaning to what appears not very meaningful. And it adds motivation in doing that that one thing today that doesn't seem so big, because I do believe that over time it will matter and it will result in that big result, that big thing I'm working for.
It reminds me of the I think it's another Naval quote of it's like 90% of effort is wasted, but you have to put in that 90% to get that 10%, or maybe it's even 99%. You have to put that in order to even get closer to get that, to understand what is that 1%, what is that 10% that's actually useful. Which, and it's hard, it's easy to just overlook that. It's easy to just say, oh, am I even doing what I'm doing now? Is it even getting me closer? And to question that, that's another like analysis paralysis type of thing people get into. And it's easy to, if you haven't seen what works before and you're constantly just hitting on that 90% and you never are recognizing the good things that come out of it that you can reuse and start compounding up, that is an easy one to get into. And I just want to say that one of my favorite Naval quotes is that karma is just you repeating your virtues and flaws until you finally get what you deserve. I think that just all encompasses whether you believe in karma or not, you don't have to like actually believe in it. You can just think of like just having that model in your mind of what it means to repeat your virtues and flaws, and that equaling what you eventually get is really strikes me as meaningful.
You can get unlucky and lucky. Like, even if you're doing things right, it still may not work out like that because of things that are less in your control. But if you keep doing them over time, the odds are in your favor.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It eventually will come back to you. Very often.
You're not going to get worse. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best you can do.
We'll do one more before we get into, I told the chat, I promise we talk about crypto and PulseChain the last few minutes, because they love the health, wealth, and wisdom, but they also love PulseChain. But I think maybe, and there's so much stuff we didn't get to, but maybe we'll do these two more. Just want to mention, so Sahil Bloom, another very smart person that I've seen, that you can see a lot of his tweets if you just search for him. I'll type his name in the chat too, so people can see. Hillman Naval talked about this a lot. Work like a lion, sprint when inspired, rest, repeat. 40-hour work weeks are a relic of the industrial age. Knowledge workers are like athletes. They sprint, rest, and reassess. What do you think about how, do you think that gives us an advantage? Let's consider ourselves, knowledge workers, or, moving past industrial age into modernity, and just being able to, be creators, be people who are able to consume and act and make things like that. Does that give us an advantage over, our ancestors in that way, of this new way of being able to just produce stuff by thinking a lot about it and acting and having a bias for action, rather than, just the industrial age type of work?
Well, I think pushing hard and then pulling back is something that I observe in my own life. Like, it sometimes takes me a while to find the opportunity to focus on. And in the meantime, I'm trying to put into myself so I'm ready when the time comes. But then when the time comes, I want to act. If there's a big problem to solve, or I can just tell that this is one of those times I really want to pay attention to get this right, I'll put a lot of focus in it. I observe that reality. I think it's a beautiful attribute of being somewhat financially free, because if you're working a 40-hour work week, you're going into work every day. You don't have the ability to obsess for a period of time and then take a break. And I do think that can be a pretty rewarding way to do things, and productive way to do things. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question exactly.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to hit on just the way that, and in my own experience too, with 9 to 5, luckily I haven't had a job that I've had. A lot of my last few jobs have been very flexible. I've been able to, work whenever I need to get it done, even being, full-time employee. Just the expectation of not putting in 40 hours a week, because that whole idea just seems like, how can you have passion? How can you be creative when you're in this time frame of just creating stuff like that? It's not like you can't just be creative on the fly. You just can't turn. I mean, at least for me, I can't just turn it on. I'm inspired. Inspiration is perishable. I go act on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does come in waves. Take advantage of it when you got it. It'll go away and you won't get it back. Yeah, I think especially if the type of work is thoughtful work that takes original creativity to solve problems, you can't just force yourself to come up with creative ideas for 40 hours a week. Like, you can flip hamburgers for 40 hours a week, but that's not creative thought. Creative thought is spontaneous. It's unknowable where you're going to have that creative idea. It is the, you're inventing something that doesn't exist, and that is by nature unknown. It's conjecture, and random ideas pop into your head. You don't know where they came from, and you don't know when they're going to come, and you can't force it. And it's creative work that does take the mind, I think, is related to human nature, and it's some of the most rewarding thing for humans, creating new ways to solve problems. But it isn't a linear process.
Yeah, I think again, factory work is different than, knowledge work, right? Like
Yep.
you need to, solving problems is different than, moving your hands really fast to assemble something, or checking the robots work and stuff like that. Nothing is people who do that, but the time frame, we're talking about the time frame of applying industrial, that type of work to, working in tech or working in business or working in some other thing you're given that ability to go think creatively and go figure out a process. And maybe that happens in a lot of, higher end factory jobs too, which that would apply to. Like, why are the people designing the factories, for example? I don't think they work 40 hours a week. They're probably either on a contract or they're on a salary, and they spend their time where they can where their brain power is used to solve the biggest problems. And it's not, it's not just the 9-to-5 type of thing. It could even be more. It could be, 7 to 7. It could be, it could be working more hours, but they're applying their skills where they're most useful.
Yeah.
Last one here, and we'll get into crypto before we wrap up. As I mentioned earlier, to you and Jake, I've been listening to Alex Hormozy a lot. You wrote the $100 million offer book. Great book, just about marketing and sales. And that's something coming from an engineering type background. Like, that's all that stuff until I actually started listening to Richard. Everything was about truth. Narrative didn't matter. It was like, all that stuff. And then over the last few years, I've switched it to branding is important. Marketing is important. Narrative can be, in a lot of ways, in the right context, more important than the actual ground truth. Like, no, people want to hear a good story rather than all this technical details that just, get them confused and they can't really do anything with. So even though both are very important to me, recently I've been, really getting into his stuff. I love the things he talks about. And he said that he summarized, and I'm summarizing in this way: massive wealth helps protect me and ensure other people can't hurt me. Others can't hurt me. And that was, I think, this was the end of a conversation one of the ends of the conversation where he was talking about why he was so motivated to become wealthy. And this struck me as something very interesting, and something I kind of relate with too. Wealth can provide a way to, protect yourself in a lot of different ways. Whether it's from, you have more power to fight bad things that happen to you, and of course there's limits and all these things, but it can provide that security in a lot of ways in your life. And that seemed to be one of the biggest drivers and motivations for him. Do you relate to that? How do you feel about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Money to me is not, like I said, I kind of was trying to say earlier, it's not the end goal. I don't want money for money's sake. And like, my ability, like, I value wisdom a lot. I want money provides me the opportunity to be able to read, to be able to think, to be able to play the real world how I think I should. And it enables me to have health insurance and eat well, like if I can afford the food. And it's one of those things. It isn't the end. And like I said, that realization that one of the other values that I want from money is independence and freedom. And those are examples, I guess, of things I would use with my independence and freedom. And I totally see it that way. And it's like money itself as an end, yeah, for me is so not the case. And I take a lot of peace in that, because Also, like if things go bad, my monetary situation is not a known. Things could go bad. I could get sued. Who knows what random thing would happen? One of my kids could get sick and just absorb tons of money in doctor bills or something like that. But knowing that I'm not like emotionally confident or something just because of the dollar amount is also very fulfilling. And recognizing for me that for me personally, there's more valuable things in life than money, but money does help me get them. Sometimes people, I think, downplay the meaning of money. Like they make money to be evil. And I do not see that the case. I do feel, for me, the more money, the better. The more freedom, the more I can help people, the more I'm stable. It's very hard to give if you don't have. If I don't have free time, which often is related to the kind of money that I have, I can't give time to people. If I don't have money, finances, I can't give finances to people. Like my ability to give is related to what I have, and money, it's a store of value. You know, it is a lot of freedom, and a lot of good things come from money that are not money itself.
Well, it's an amplifier to me. I always see it that way. I don't see it as good, evil. I think the people, whoever is using it, whatever your personality is, it amplifies you. If you were meant to do bad things with money, you're gonna do bad things with money. If you're meant to do good things with money, you're gonna do it. It just amplifies you.
If you're not happy, you won't be any happier with money.
Money solves money
I think
problems.
there is something to be said for being able to pay your bills. There's stress that comes from not knowing if your car breaks, you'll be able to fix it or something. But once you get past that point, you won't be any happier with money. And it's really easy to let money continue to stress you by continuing to raise your standard of living right to the edge of what you can afford and just continue the stress. If that's the kind of person you are, it will not go away because you have more money. I've observed those things to be true.
Exactly. Money solves money problems. It's always comes to mind.
Yes.
When you talk
I love
about
that one. Naval.
Yep. I was like, I didn't even remember who it was. I was like, yep, that's probably Navaldo. I've after listening to his book 6 times, I probably just internalized this so much I can't even remember. Speaking of that, last one on the wealth stuff. Well, next to last, I guess, because what do you read, consume, listen to? Like, is there some book that's helped you most out there? What can you share about? Just briefly, who you like.
If I had to give one book, it would probably be one of Tony Robbins' books, like Unlimited Power, because I think it consolidates a lot of other self-help books very well. He covers a wide range of topics. If you listen to successful people, it's very common for them to mention Tony Robbins, Richard Hart included, and I think for good reason. I think we talked about Napoleon Hill. He is a classic book. Think and Grow Rich is a great book. How to Sell Your Way Through Life is a great book. Specifically for trading, which is much more about the philosophy of trading that I really like. It's Trading in the Zone. I think it's by Mark Douglas. Mark Douglas. That's a great trading book that I've really, really valued. I've read a good amount of other books, but I do kind of just come back to some of my favorites, and those are examples of some of my favorites. There's a broader, there's lots of books that are so valuable for more specific reasons, but self-help wise, those are clearly, in my opinion, some of the classics. And I think those are what come to mind immediately. I love, if you go to Naval's Twitter, he has a thread, a big thread on how to get rich. Yep. Something like how to get rich without getting lucky or something like that.
Yep.
And it's a great thread. And he has a 3-hour podcast talk on that thread, which is great. Consolidated, concise, easy to understand information. I think he is very talented. He's a billionaire himself, and he is talented in relaying the ideas of becoming wealthy. He's talented at relaying that well. I think Alex Hormozy is a new guy that is very similar to Naval in his ability to relay information in short, concise, simple truths that are easy to understand and easy to look at your life and be like, oh, wow, I can apply that and see how it's better. they're believable truths. So yeah, Alex Hormozy, you can just look him up on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter too. He does the same thing as Duvall, just puts
Nuggets.
1 sentence, 2 sentence little things they're like almost always packed with what appear to me to be wisdom. So I really do appreciate those guys a lot as well.
Yeah, I think for me it's Nabal. I've learned more from Nabal, Alex Hormozy recently. All the classics, all the Napoleon Hill, how to win friends to influence people. Another great one. Yeah, I have a thread too. Let me. Well, you guys, maybe I'll try to look it up in a second. I have a thread of like my favorite. Actually, it's on Maxim's Twitter too. Yeah, I remember posting that. So yeah, we have a list of our favorite stuff too. I'll try to drop the tweet in here. Last one on wealth though relates to PulseChain. Richard, how do you put the wealth mindset to work when evaluating Richard Hart and his products? Like, what makes it unreasonable to believe you won't get rich or richer by investing early, holding bags, participating in this ecosystem?
I mean, I don't know. I look at crypto as risk reward. Crypto is volatile. There is risk in it. And then for me, it's what's the potential downside? Is that worth the potential upside? And I just kind of look at it like that. I think one thing that I feel like emphasizing is none of this is a known. I know that. Like, I am for HEX, and I have explanations why specifically I'm for HEX, but it is not a known. And like we can see the price has gone down. That's not surprising to me. But you can also see that if people went all in, a couple months ago, they're probably not looking so hot. And it's part of the game as well. And I just want to make the best decisions I can with what I know. I think there's explanations that I think there's a good chance that this is going to have it's going to come out the other end and look well. But it's a game, and I don't control the game. I can control how I approach the game, and I'm trying to approach the game to the best of my ability. I've been attracted to Richard Hart, like we were talking about earlier. There's some attributes that I'm not a huge fan of, but I think at the same time, there's other attributes that I'm a very big fan of. And I think there's something here, and it's enough so that I'm willing to take the risk associated with it and see how it plays out. And yeah, we're in hard times right now, so it's hard to know how bad things will get. HEX is tied to other pairs. It is affected by the macro economy. It's affected by Bitcoin and Ethereum price. And it's hard to know how for me, it's hard to know how exactly long how long we'll be in a bear market, how long the Fed is going to be raising interest rates and trying to fight inflation, which is bringing the price of things down, which I think are going to be impactful. Those have effects. And but for me, this is a risk reward that I want to play, and I want to approach it, as realistically as possible with as much wisdom as I can. And I think patience is a good thing. It's another one of those simple principles, like knowing what I don't know. I don't know where the bottom is. So what can I do about that? I don't know if we've already bottomed. So what can I do about that? Are questions I guess I ask myself, and they give me comfort when I focus on what I don't know and what to do about it. And I'm glad to be in this ecosystem. I love the community. I think the community is a great community as crypto goes. And I think that's when you're looking at things that it's very hard to objectify the innate value of the system. DeFi in general, I think, is very hard to quantify, like, what is decentralized finance worth? Even if you just looked at Ethereum, what is Ethereum objectively worth? Like, it's very hard to tie it. Like, is Ethereum worth $400 or $40,000? Like how could you create an argument that says it's worth today one or the other, and it's overpriced or underpriced compared to that? It's very hard. I think it's hard because Ethereum is not tied directly to uncorrelated assets. It does not give you income in uncorrelated assets, which most assets do. Most assets pay you in dollars, and you could look at the dollar income versus the price of the business or the stock or whatever, and determine, you know, a more objective innate value for the thing. Ethereum pays you in Ethereum, HEX pays you in HEX, and it lends to a lot of volatility, and it's the reality of the game that we're playing. But the volatility is also an opportunity if you think that the volatility is going to come back to the upside, and if you can, you know, avoid buying the top and selling the bottom, and you can play that volatility well, you have a lot of opportunity. And like I said, yeah, for me, those are games I want to play. I'm really excited to see PulseChain come out and how that all works out. And I'm watching just like everyone else and trying to make the best decisions I can along the way.
Yeah, it's you just gave me a new coin idea. So you have a coin that you stake it and you get paid in USDC.
Yeah, you got to set up the algorithm somehow to have that pay you directly from value given. And I think that would be easier to, if nothing else, it would be easier to value that token. Because it's giving you US dollar, you have a way to correlate it with that US dollar and be like, well, if it's giving this much, then I'm willing to pay this much. The market interest rates are this, so it's at least worth that much. Or, you know, you'd have a easier time knowing it's arguably innate value, I think, than what to me, I think of crypto a lot. Crypto's freedom, DeFi, decentralized finance. We have the ability to be transparent and trust the code, which basically is the trust in the free market to people are going to buy it and sell it. And it's going to play out however the individuals in the system want it to play out. But there's no deceit in true DeFi. It's all transparent. The code is there. People can read it. The buys are there. It's all peer-to-peer. That's a good thing. But at the same time, like, it's kind of like asking, it's transparency and freedom. What is that worth? It's like asking, what is freedom worth? How much do you pay for freedom? That is a very hard to answer question, in my opinion, because you can't tie it to another asset that has a dollar value. And it's kind of like DeFi right now. It's very hard to tie the prices together. And I think it's a hiccup for people like Warren Buffett. And I think Warren Buffett's right in some of his wisdom of like, of hesitancy in investing in this, because it's not correlated to other assets and income. But that, to me, the thing is, it's not that it's not valuable. It is valuable. It's just hard to quantify confidently what that actual value is and compare that to the current price.
Dude, that is so true. That's like the ability to recognize the stuff and finance and business in every vertical in every industry. Just how do you compare one thing versus another? Like, how do you quantify these things? There's so many, unknown knowns, known unknowns, that whole thing too. And it's, but being able to see that and conceptualize it and understanding what you don't know and what you can't know. Like, what is another thing Warren Buffett talks about is, is something knowable? And is it, what was the other one? Shoot. It's like, is something knowable? And is it also like profitable or something like that? And if it's not those two things, we don't want to invest in it.
Yeah.
Because we have no idea how to evaluate it. And even if we did, we wouldn't make any money. So like, you need to have like those two things he talks about. Super meaningful. All right, man, we'll wrap it up on this. Everyone who just joined, you're going to want to rewind. We went through some stuff. Wealth mindset was, in my mind, a complete success as far as that goes. But now we got to get into the real questions. Win 13K BTC.
We'll see. We will see if that happens. I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit impressed with how well Bitcoin has done given the current environment. The fact that we've gone into 15K and not lower yet is surprising, although we still have a bearish environment and the FTX craziness is still playing out. And we will see how bad it gets. I don't know. But I'm trying to put myself in a position to win regardless of what that is within reason. And yeah, so for me, it means patience. Just let's wait, see how things play out. And I've already invested at roughly these levels. Now I'm like, we could go a lot lower. It could take a long time. I'm not saying we do, or it does take a long time, but I don't know that we won't. So I'm trying to set my situation up that let's just let things play out, see how far down we go. And if it goes a lot lower, at least I'll have some funds to invest then. If it doesn't, at least I'm already invested here. And that's the simplest approach that I've been able to take that gives me the most peace and confidence with what I currently see.
Yeah, it's I was talking to Wells Monday night, and we may have a road ahead of us, 2023, and that's what I'm hopeful about. I'm hopeful 2023 is filled full of, the macro may not be good. A lot of people don't think the macro is going to be good in 2023, but what does crypto do? Is there regulation? Is there, is regulation a good and bad? You could still man and strong man the regulation part. Hey, there's a lot of institutional investors that would come in if regulation things happen. You can also say, hey, we don't want that because of all the principles of crypto, and also it could slow down innovation, and you could debate both sides of that. So we'll see what happens with crypto. And then the Richard Heart ecosystem, though, I think that is the shining city on the hill.
Yeah. Some
people speculated could have a mini bull when PulseChain launches, we could have a mini bull run, at least for a little while, within this ecosystem. It's a lot of money getting unlocked there. It's getting unlocked. What's it going to do? Is it going to be used to trade for US dollars immediately, or is it going to be used to build positions? That's the big question. And that gets me into when PulseChain.
I don't know.
Any speculation?
I'm here and ready whenever it launches. I've sacked. I've got my projects that will be copied over, and I'll be hopefully ready to act whenever that is.
Yeah, it's the question, and I always think about too. The question it's pretty straightforward, but the framing behind it, like why people are so anxious for it. Again, we talked about, or I mentioned all the stuff getting unlocked. You got all billions of dollars worth of coins, or we'll see what the prices are. Starting at zero first, but we'll see where it goes from there. And all the projects that are waiting to launch on it, all the copies you're going to get when it comes. I mean, you could look at a whole list of reasons to be excited and ask the question. But Richard's not going to launch it until it's ready. So for me, I've said this a million times. I keep pushing it out. Hey, what is it? It's November right now. I was saying January, February. And then once we hit December, I'll be like, all right, maybe March. I keep pushing it out because I never want to be close enough where it makes me anxious, because I don't know. It's unknowable. It's important. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, Warren Buffett. Is it important and is it knowable? There we go. If it is not both of those things, you should not worry about it, right? If it's not important enough to worry about, you shouldn't worry about it. If it's not knowable,
what's the point?
Why would you worry? Yeah, what's the point? So those two things you can apply to the Win PulseChain too. Not knowable. It is important, but it's not knowable. So why spend the brain power? All right, everyone. I've not looked at chat for a while, but you guys are just tearing it up. I appreciate it. Everyone, any last questions? I'm just scrolling for a second. I don't see any other ones. Those are two I scrolled up for a minute ago, but I think we'll end it there. Go have some lunch myself. Maxim, fantastic conversation. Second one we've had. I had you on interview maybe a few weeks ago or so. And then this one with the wealth mindset, you were one of the top people I had on top of my mind. Because like I said, but at the beginning of the interview, or the beginning of the stream with you and Jake both, I watched a lot of both of your content. I like a lot of things you have to say, and just your ability to break things down, your understanding of a lot of the different systems that we interact with. I thought would be very valuable. And hopefully I didn't disappoint everyone with these, because I did this, at least myself. I'm excited to go back and rewatch this and clip some cool stuff out, because I think we got to a lot of key topics that people are hopefully going to get some value out of.
Thanks, Max.
Yeah, man. Have a great rest of your day, and everyone have a happy Thanksgiving. If you're in America and you celebrate that, have a happy Thanksgiving. If not, you understand why people are probably not tweeting as much tomorrow, or will they be? I don't know. Usually during holidays, it usually gets quiet, but the age of 24/7 connectivity is a funny one. So spend some time with your family if you're doing anything for the holidays, and have some good food. Enjoy yourself, and we'll be back. I don't know when my next stream is, but I'm sure it won't be too long. That being said, Maxim, where can people find you? Where can they hear more of your health, wealth, and wisdom?
Yeah, at Won't Settle Media on Twitter and Maxim Broadcast on YouTube.
Perfect. And if you're not familiar with the channel here, at RHMaximus on Twitter, RHMax on YouTube, and RHMaximus across TikTok and Instagram. Although I have someone else managing those mostly, but it is me doing all the stuff on YouTube and Twitter. I keep those sovereign for the most part. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. Catch the replay if you just joined. This was a great one in my opinion, and because we had some great guests on to share some knowledge, and good conversation, man. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again later.
All righty, see you guys.